Hey, what's up guys, Jack here, and today I've put together some simple tips for you to get better at Counter-Strike. CSGO is growing in popularity every single day in leaps and bounds, and as such there's a lot of new players on the scene. The problem with CS though is that the FPS skills you learn in other games don't always translate that well to CS because of its complexity and steep learning curve. With that said, let's get stuck into the good stuff. Tip number 1. It's a boring tip, but it's the most important one if you want to get better. Practice, then carry on practicing, and when you're done with that, practice some more. Professional players have to play every day and night to keep up their level of play, and of course most people don't want to be professional CS players and don't have the time. They just want to be half decent at the game, but the same rule applies. You don't have to sit there every single night practicing, but as with anything, the more you play and practice, the better you will become. Endless grinding isn't going to cut it though to get you all the way. You've got to couple it with tip number 2. And tip number 2 is watching other players. This may be watching players in the game that you're in, seeing how they move, where they shoot, how they fire, or watching streams of other players, or even watching professional tournaments. Everyone learned to play Counter-Strike at one point, and almost everything that everyone's learned is from other people. Even to this day, you'll see another player doing a certain smoke or flash, or planting the bomb somewhere and think, wow, I didn't actually know that you could do that. Watch other players and pick up as much knowledge as you can. And watching pro players' POV demos is a great way to learn the game too, as well as source TV demos of ESL tournament matches. See if you can pick up on all the nuances and positions that pro players use. You can even record demos of yourself by opening the console and typing record space name of demo. Watch the demo back, see where you went wrong, or even record the game with something like shadow play, watch it back and figure out what you could have done better for next time. Tip number 3 is also a pretty big one, and honestly it's going to help you out no end if you can try to remember it and always keep it on your mind. Crosshair placement. Now I've covered this a little bit in a video for Battlefield 4 and the same thing applies, but it's really important in Counter-Strike. Let's say you're walking up long on Dust 2 towards the bomb site and you've got your crosshair aimed towards the ground or just in the middle of nowhere. Unless some killer beavers or ants invade Dust 2, that isn't going to be much help. Not only that, but if an enemy rears his ugly head from a corner, you actually have to move your crosshair further to get to him, and that's going to slow down your aiming and reaction time. If for instance you had your crosshair already at head height and aimed towards a common holding position on a bomb site or towards CT spawn for example, you're already going to be in a better place and at an advantage. Learning the map also helps with this because you can start aiming your crosshair towards the most common places where you expect enemies to be. Tip number 4 is awareness, and this covers a few things. Firstly, use your radar, that's an obvious one. Radar is very useful to show any enemies that have been spotted by your teammates. Also, if one of those spotted enemies has the bomb, it too will also pop up on the radar, which can give you vital information on a rotate. Not only that, but it of course shows positions of friendly players. You think you heard an enemy around the corner so you fire, but it turns out it was a teammate. If you'd have checked the radar, you'd have already known that. Awareness also means knowing what equipment you have at any time. Lots of players, especially the new guys, die without using all of their grenades that they've bought, when in a lot of circumstances those grenades could have really helped them out. I do it too. Sometimes you just get caught up or forget about it in the heat of the moment. But if you're down to a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-1, consciously think to yourself, do I have any grenades left? And you can remember maybe you've got that one smoke or flash left, and that can be the difference between winning or losing a round. Awareness is also about knowing what's around you, knowing where your teammates are and which spots they're covering and you're covering, which positions on the map could be vulnerable to enemy attack. Tip number 5, learning the guns and maps. The main guns you want to get the hang of are the AK, the M4, the AWP and the starting pistols. That's going to get you off to a pretty good start. They're the most common weapons to use and the rest will come as you go along. Spend some time learning the recoil patterns and how to fire the guns. Usually with the rifles, burst firing is the best way to go, but spend some time yourself against bots or on deathmatch and aim maps, learning how the guns fire and the pattern of the recoil. The recoil master map on the community workshop is great for practicing this. Mastering each map is a lot harder and will just take some time playing them to learn all the spots. Have a run around them on your own though, and it'll make all the difference when you start playing matchmaking games. Tip number 6, Your gaming equipment, setup and in-game settings have to be on point. For equipment, obviously you want to be getting the best FPS possible and have a good PC. Maintaining over 120 FPS is the sweet spot. I'd also recommend picking up a low input lag 120Hz or 144Hz monitor. BenQ, Asus and Acer make some great models. The difference between 60Hz monitors is really night and day. With 120Hz and above monitors, the game feels so much smoother, more responsive, easier on the eyes and just overall more enjoyable to play. For your in-game settings, I'd recommend setting them to as low as possible to get the most FPS and visibility. The resolution that you use, whether that's 16:9 or 4:3, comes down to preference. Keep in mind though, if you use a 16:9 resolution, you're going to have a wider field of view. The mouse and sensitivity you use is also incredibly important. I personally use a Razer Death Adder at 400 DPI and 2 in-game sensitivity. My Windows Sense is 6 out of 11. Logitech SteelSeries and Zowie also make some fantastic gaming mice, so check those out too. And once you find a mouse you're comfortable with, stick to it, go on a map, stick to a sensitivity that you feel really comfortable with. For CS, I definitely recommend something on the low to medium scale, and make sure to turn off mouse acceleration in Windows and in game. That will seriously mess your aim and consistency up if you have it turned on. A good headset is also important, of course. Being able to accurately pinpoint footsteps and number of players running in Counter-Strike will give you so much information and help you stay alive for longer. Tip number 7 is very important. Don't presume anything and expect the unexpected. Presuming there is no one behind a wall or a box is the worst mistake you can make. You need to check everything and always be alert. Don't make any assumptions. If you think you heard a footstep or a reload, act like you did. Check, pre-aim the corner, grenade the box, check. It's really going to help you out. And don't get overconfident or cocky, you're not psychic. Walking is also really important, especially when setting up to take a bomb site. Don't get overconfident and don't give the enemy team any indication of your real intentions. Tip number 8, the final tip for today, is to play with better players. Personally, I think playing with and against better players will make you improve a lot faster than playing against worse players. Having experienced players around you also helps if you've got friends that you can play with. They can help, they can share tactics and tips with you. And even though playing against better players may get you owned a few times, I always think that you learn a lot more from playing against them even if you lose. It's much more beneficial than playing against terrible players. That's what Counter-Strike is all about. Every time you play, you learn a new strategy or boost or grenade or way to play a certain situation. The game has been around for over a decade and yet it's still always evolving and we have to evolve with it. So there we have it. Hope you enjoyed that. 8 quick tips that I think could make a difference to your game if you apply them. Thanks for watching guys. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one.